Mr. Trump, can you escape the Jeffrey Epstein crisis?
Maybe that's why we heard this.
What's that song?
I don't know, it's very famous though.
It's from a musical.
Yeah.
Memories.
Music boomed out from the convoy of golf carts, drowning out the surrounding sound.
So look, I just think it's important to have a comfort character if you're going to be a world leader.
Yeah.
You know, it's if you're going to be asked like a difficult question about a guy that you claim you like always hated hanging out with and that you were never really friends with, you didn't share any interests. And if you're going to answer questions about like a trove of evidence that comes out of you writing notes to each other being like, I love you, you're my best friend. We have a secret language together. I love all of the stuff we do together, especially our many shared interests.
That's right.
Yeah, you need to be able, you need to be like, that's the thing. People don't respect neurodivergence in world leaders. And if you're really, really stressed, you need to reach for a comfort character like Rum Tum Tugger.
Or Grisabella in the case of Donald Trump. Let's be real. I mean, that motherfucker was listening to Memories, which we all know is the big 11 o'clock number that Grisabella sings, as originated memorably by Betty Buckley in the original cast of Cats on Broadway. We all know this.
Yeah.
This is like, this should no longer be that you have to be 35 to be president of the United States. It's like, you should have to have that level of Broadway knowledge.
Yeah. Of Andrew Lloyd Webber specifically, even though he's British. Yeah.
But you said to this earlier that you hate Cats.
Oh, I fucking hate it. I mean,
why do you know all this about a musical you hate? That's why also, look, that's another thing I think you share with the American president is that you know so much about stuff that you hate.
Yeah, yes. Okay, so a couple things, right? Hi, everybody. I'm Josh. You may have heard me before from my podcast, The Worst of All Possible Worlds, where we talk about media and pop culture.
Really heating up the cold open there.
I co-host it with two guys who both love musicals, one of whom specifically loves Cats, and the other of whom fucking hates Cats. And so half the time, the shit that we are arguing about off mic is the musical Cats.
Well,
I for one can say I loved the video though. Like Donald Trump in his like motorcade of golf carts, and he's just blasting out the musical Cats while people are yelling like, "Are you a paedophile, sir?" He's got Jeffrey Epstein's Island, sir. And he's just like, "Memories."
All alone in the moonlight.
Like, he's so awesome. He's so funny. He's like the funniest guy who ever lived.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's like the problem is that he is responding to quite legitimate questions with the contempt that I think politicians should save for idiotic questions like, can a woman have a penis? I think that like my advice to the new Corbyn party, to Zach Polanski, to anyone who wants to be a progressive politician, find a show tune. And then anytime someone asks you an idiotic question to which you'd like to show contempt to,
that's right,
then you should just walk away blaring that show tune.
What's yours, Riley?
I am the very modern lover, modern party.
There we go.
Song?
Yeah. It would definitely be something from the HMS Pinafore.
Okay,
or maybe
that.
something from the Mikado.
Okay. So you're both Gilbert and Sullivan boys is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I think I don't really like musicals, but I think Gilbert and Sullivan is kind of like, it's like a musical that knows that it's shit, which is sort of what I like about it.
I mean, operetta in general is kind of like self-aware camp in that way. What about you, Hussein?
I don't know, because I don't really I've never really seen musicals before. I've seen like like it just never was really part of like my life, and so I'm trying to think about like, I guess I would say like Guys and Dolls, just because it's the only one that I know.
Wait,
but do you know the song from The Simpsons that's not actually in the musical?
I mean, basically that's right. Yeah,
awesome. That would be the funniest thing to sing to the press, and they're like, that's not even a song.
Or like you have to meet the press and you're like, I hate every ape I see, from chimpanzee to chimpanzee.
But I mean, let's be serious. This is me, right? So like, really, what it's going to be is like the opening theme song of Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Or like, I think you could do like Numb, you know? I think that'd be good. Like
the Nine Inch Nails version or the Johnny Cash version?
No, presumably it's like the Linkin Park song, right?
The Linkin Park
thinking of Hurt.
I am thinking of Hurt.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Of which I would say like,
I've become so numb today.
No, it would. Yeah, no, it would be the Evangelion theme song, or it would be like fucking. I've been listening to a lot of Deftones recently, like again. So maybe something that'd be kind of hard because it would just be like lots of like oohs and mms, just like over and over.
Cruel Hussein's thesis. Is this anything?
Yeah. This is tangentially relevant, but my PT turned up to the gym the other day in like a trap star singlet and like ankle length like baggy jorts.
Hell yeah.
And like Nike TNs, and I was like, oh yeah, man, you look like Fred Durst in 2002, and he was like, who's that? My man is 27.
Then this is a perfect example for our new strategy of political communication, which is you just back away slowly while the very modern model of a modern major general plays loudly.
Or I sing numb because he won't know it.
Yeah, exactly. But I just wrote this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, hi everybody. It's TF. We're in studio. We got Josh Boerman from The Worst of All Possible Worlds and Ill Conceived here, who heated up the cold open way earlier than planned.
You know what? I love heating up anything, honestly. That's why I'm here. I looked at the temperature. It is currently 92 degrees Fahrenheit in New York. That's 33 in fake dollars, which is just insane.
That's not good.
You should rename your podcast The Worst of All Possible Musicals.
Yeah.
That's such a good point.
The show where you just endlessly debate whether Cats is good or whether Cats is bad.
Actually, honestly, the question of doing a Cats episode has been a topic of contention for a very, very long time.
You've got to have it out, struggle session.
That's your Tacoma Narrows Bridge episode.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Look, we got a lot to get through today. And number one, Josh has chosen to come to the UK. The year is 2025. The entire internet has been made illegal in this country as the online safety bill expands to include Al Jazeera, all of Reddit, most of Twitter, every podcast, and possession of a VPN is now punishable by death. Brave gooners meet in the woods to exchange old copies of Nuts, Zoo, and other relics of time past. Welcome to the world of G for Goondetta, the goon powder, treason, and plot.
It must be like kind of hard. Like, you know, Josh, like he's come all the way from the US. Very, very long trip. You know, everyone knows like getting out of Heathrow is really, really hard. You get to your hotel room and you just want to like jerk it, right? You just need to really relieve the pressure. And you go on your computer to do that. Like a rite of passage when you go to visit any country. And then you are confronted by the screen, and the screen is just a picture of Keir Starmer asking you whether you have your goon pass. And obviously you don't have the goon pass.
I had to do for Blue Sky DMs.
Yeah.
I had to fucking do this shit where I had to like take a picture of my face to prove that I'm an adult.
Oh my God, really?
Any DM. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Any DM.
Imagine if you show them your face and then they're like, we need more evidence.
Show us your dick now.
Yeah. No DMs for you. No. So if you're not familiar with this out of the country, the UK has recently, we talked about the Online Safety Act ages ago, but it's now come into force. And what it has meant is that anything deemed unsafe is now, you will have to validate that you are 18 to reach it. And things that are deemed unsafe, it's not just things like pornography, but it's also, for example, like graphic images of Gaza are considered to be unsafe. And so those news sources are now censored. Quite a bit of Wikipedia, apparently. I don't know the full details of that, but like quite a bit of Wikipedia and its related projects may be considered to be unsafe. It's a kind of universal basic Mary Whitehouseification of like the entire internet.
Well, and I think for Blue Sky, the reason that they were like, in order to access DMs, you have to do age verification is they're just trying to shield their ass from potential liability because theoretically in DMs, you could send anything.
Yeah. And, you know, this is like everything in the UK, right? This is a piece of legislation that is responding to a moral panic driven by the press that has ended up creating a huge amount of government overreach into people's lives to satisfy basically no one, but that could have huge effects around the world as lots of places need to just start stepping up user verification measures. So yeah, the idea that you can, for example, also like, let's just say maybe you're a young person, you're questioning your gender identity. Maybe you're going on Reddit to try and find out what can I do to like maybe find support, to find resources, maybe even to find hormones. Sorry, you have to prove you're 18. And you're not going to prove you're 18 unless you're going to be able to use a VPN that is now, and now the government's responded to mass use of VPNs by saying, we're going to make it illegal to use a VPN. And by the way, like every major company uses VPNs all the time. So good luck with that. And secondly, as I've seen, you can just print out a picture of an adult and then put that picture in front of the camera, and then it will say, okay, fine, you're an adult. Or The other thing you can do is you can just say, okay, I'm going to allow, we've actually talked about some of the startups that are doing this before. I'm going to allow some venture funded company. I've got a screenshot from All Pass Trust, one of them here, where you can give your access to your quote, email digital footprint.
That's so fucked.
Yes. The email digital footprint, which allows the software to say, okay, well, are you getting emailed by your bank?
Right. So they're basically taking all of your emails, throwing them through a large language model and seeing if it aligns with what you would expect to see from a grown up.
Yeah. It's like, are you getting emails from the club or are you getting emails from the bank?
Right.
Basically.
Either way, you're an adult, baby.
Riley's getting both.
Yes. Are you Pitbull?
Yes. And again, it's like, in order to do any of this, you just, we've seen every time the British state does something like this, again, it's often in response to some kind of moral panic, creates an enormous amount of like state penetration into someone's life. And then the assumption is there will never be a kind of revolutionary conservative movement that can then take over those channels of fine-grained control and then use them for the purposes of expanding fascism.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, a preview of coming attractions in this episode, but it's also something that we're seeing in the United States as well. Big difference is that in the US, this kind of thing, the like age verification shit, is happening at a state level, and it's always in response to the pornos, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like in Texas, for instance, and I think South Carolina, there's a few other states where in order to regulate this adult content, they've said you need to upload your driver's license, you need to do that sort of thing. And as you said, the net effect of this is that the government will be able to deem anything that they don't like pornographic. And I've seen enough evangelical Christian shit in my lifetime to know that eventually the scope of that which is deemed pornographic broadens and broadens and broadens to include matters of gender and sexuality where they just disagree with the presentation fundamentally.
Yeah. And that, of course, would never happen here.
No, God, no.
No, there's no sort of giant cross-party consensus that kind of thing should be happening here. Yeah, so we are now living in G for Goondetta, but first they came for the goons, and I said nothing because I was not a goon. Then they came for basically everybody else, and, etc.
There's going to be like an underground railroad for copies of Max Power. We're going to be exchanging them in secret. With the expansion of Sadiq Khan's ULEZ, the cars and the tits will both be illegal, and then Max Power will be the most illegal magazine.
ULEZ stands for underground lesbian. Yeah,
that's of course.
Yeah.
Before we get into the next UK sort of local thing, we're going to be talking about the movies in the back half. I found this to be utterly outrageous. I didn't know that we were generating a homegrown Fetterman.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Congrats.
we appear to be generating a homegrown Fetterman in the form of David Lammy.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, David Lammy is someone who has repeatedly gone on the radio and defended more or less everything Israel has done in Gaza for the last 3 years.
Is he wearing the shorts now? What is it that makes him Fetterman-esque?
I'll tell you what. It's that he has this guy who is Britain's foreign secretary, for those who don't know, has begun to say, I have imposter syndrome and anxiety. Motherfucker, maybe you actually should just leave. How are you going to have overseen, let's say, the collusion of the UK in the greatest humanitarian catastrophe of the 21st century, and then go on fucking James O'Brien's podcast and be like, my mental health is not great. Hey, fuck you. Maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe it shouldn't be good.
Yeah.
Maybe it should be worse.
Yeah, but I do want to discuss also a little of what seems to be, I've noticed this, I'm sure you might have noticed this as well, a sort of about turn and willingness to criticize Israel and support Gaza among Labour MPs. Little by little, and then all at once, kind of starting a few weeks ago. And then obviously Glastonbury came, and then there was the moral panic that we could all ignore the real things that were going on. Again, good liberals could, be like, hey, well, I don't have to change my mind because everyone's freaking out about Bob Villain. That's fine. Right. But then, again, with scenes of basically hell on earth, of starvation, of sort of mass death, of sort of inevitable famine are coming out of Gaza.
And poor David Lammy just feels awful about it.
Yeah, he feels really bad. And I guess that's what else could he have done other than just like feel bad?
Yeah, who can say?
And have imposter syndrome.
Why, what is he, the foreign secretary of the United Kingdom?
Yeah.
Little old me. Israel had never listened to me.
Yeah. No, why? I bet they don't even think I'm good at the job.
Aww.
And it's like,
they probably don't even want my weapon.
And the thing is, again, it's like, I don't care what possible reason there is no possible reason where you should ever be encouraged in your career of being foreign secretary if this is what you've overseen. If you've had imposter syndrome, you were right.
It's funny that like this is sort of Blair Mark II, and they've once again overseen mass death in the Middle East. It's like to every sort of new Labourite administration is granted one major humanitarian crisis.
I feel like the Blairites were less apologetic about Iraq, though, at least sort of in the medium term. I guess we don't really know where things are going yet regarding Gaza, but
like it's almost as though they're saying, right, that some senior political figures are like, all right, realizing, right, to everyone listening to this, to all of us, it was clear the following day what was going to happen. It was clear before, to be perfectly honest, right? It was, and if it wasn't clear then, which it was to us, but even then, if it wasn't clear to someone else then, you could have listened to the Amalek speech. You could have listened to anything that like Ben Gvir said. You could have listened to anything that Bezalel Smotrich said. You could have listened to the ICJ. At every single stage where someone serious asked, is there a genocide that is at risk of being committed here? Is there a genocide being committed here? The answer was a resounding yes. Yes, it is. Yes, there is a risk of one. It is happening. And I've speculated as to what this might be that's causing these, like, you know, respectable senior liberal figures. It's happening in the States, too. Matt Iglesias.
Hakeem Jeffries put out a half-baked, like, it's still very, like...
I mean, if Hakeem Jeffries is putting out a half-baked statement, he must have seen some absolutely dire private evidence. Yeah. That is way worse than anyone thinks.
And he's been seeing, I'm sure, also the same pictures and videos as the rest of us. But like you said, there's something else and something more going on that still isn't going to allow the Democrats to rescind their support of the Israeli government, obviously, but they're going to encourage things very strongly.
Oh, of course. Same with labor.
Yeah.
If you are a labor politician now, you have spent the last probably 8 weeks, again, with a little break after Glastonbury, because everyone just got to enjoy a moral panic again. But you've spent the last 8 weeks realizing that you have been complicit in aiding and abetting a genocide, and that this probably doesn't, and again, because this is what they're concerned with, look good for you personally, right? This is something that is, I'm overseeing a famine. I'm on record speaking in support of the famine. I don't want to be remembered I thought I'd be on record as standing up for our allies in the Middle East. And so now Starmer is saying, the appalling scenes in Gaza are unrelenting. Again, as always, without saying, where are the scenes coming from?
Right.
Are there just scenes? Are they just there? Did they appear out of the ground? Right? No, obviously not. And he says, the French, are saying, okay, well, we'll recognize a Palestinian state.
And apparently also they were really trying to get Canada and the UK to go along with it too.
Yeah.
Which didn't work out because at the end of the day, they still fear Trump too much.
Anglo countries consistently bitch made.
We don't even recognize France.
Yeah. So look, but Starmer, of course, is still talking about things like a pathway to peace, to turn a ceasefire into lasting peace. Recognition of a Palestinian state has to be one of those steps.
Oh, who should do it, Keir?
Well,
do you think there's somebody who could maybe recognize the state of Palestine?
No, heavens no.
It is insane, isn't it, that we've had like God knows how long, 40, 50 years of like liberal politicians going on about a two-state solution, but also it's one where like one state isn't allowed to be recognized. Like, there should be a two-state solution, but also there's only allowed to be one state.
Well, it's a two-state solution when one of the two states is saying it feels safe enough for there to be a two states, which just never arrives.
No, it's funny.
That day never comes. Yeah. Around the corner, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so Starmer goes on. He says, the situation is, quote, an absolute catastrophe, and that people in Britain are revolted at what they're seeing on their screens. So we have to get to that ceasefire,
I'm interested in hearing like the American view as well, because mine is sort of a mixture of, all of it is speculation, because obviously like the reasons behind why this has happened, you can I think there are multiple theories. The first is that it suddenly became acceptable once like mainstream press decided that it was a story. And like, I went to the protest outside of Downing Street on Friday last week, and there were lots of people with placards of the Daily Express front cover. And I imagine that isn't because they like reading the Daily Express. I'm guessing that men, like, they probably don't like reading the Daily Express, but it's more just this idea that, like something significant has changed in this like media environment where up until now, if you said that you wanted a ceasefire, or if you wanted even if you wanted a two-state solution, you were basically on the side of Hamas, right?
I think that's definitely a piece of it stateside. Like, you are now seeing articles in the New York Times that are unequivocally arguing that this is a genocide, which you would not be seeing 6 months ago.
But the most important thing, though, is to have waited until it is too late to stop it, to recognize it. That's the crucial thing.
Yeah, well, this is it. Because the other part of it is also, and this is like more of a, my tinfoil hat is sort of on, but it's backwards because I'm cool. I'm cool and
like
I'm a
Fred
chill.
Durst, yeah.
Exactly. I'm a tinfoil Fred Durst. But it's also one where it's just like, perhaps the sort of like any romantic idea of what Israel was or what Israel could be has basically gone down the toilet. And and like, I've been thinking about this for a little bit, because whenever you sort of see people now who defend Israel, no one is really talking about like, oh, it's a place where like a lot of art is produced, or there's a lot of culture that's produced.
You never hear about Pride in Tel Aviv anymore.
You don't really even hear about Pride in Tel Aviv anymore. You're right. You don't even hear about SodaStream anymore. What happened to that, right? Yeah. Everyone's now getting Philips ones for whatever reason. No, like you don't like, even the sort of Israel as like a startup tech nation. It's like you don't hear any of that anymore. You haven't heard about that for a while. And so like a lot of the PR around Israel and why it's so important has basically been dissolved, which is why the only defense of it among like the increasingly unhinged is like, you have to sort of commit war crimes in order to protect Jewish people and their safety, and we're not going to elaborate on that any further, and if you do, we're just going to yell at you. And so what's been very interesting to watch from the UK is that the people who are still defending Israel, just before I came on, I was watching a clip from Julia Hartley-Brewer, fan of the show.
Oh, I saw that was
what did she do this time?
Oh, it was genuinely, it was revolting. It was shocking and revolting that I have to share a world with this person.
So this is like Julia Hartley-Brewer, who like looks at the photo of like a starving child in Gaza and basically says, well, the mum looks kind of fat, so like maybe it's like,
fuck off.
Yeah, I'm not even joking. Like, but
no,
like,
I know you're not.
I've paraphrased, but only very slightly for editorializing reasons, not really because of the content. And if you you've got Melanie Phillips, who is basically sort of now saying that like, yeah, Gaza needs to be taken over by Israel because of safety. That's the only argument they have, and you cannot really sort of ask them to elaborate on that because they'll just yell at you. But my thinking is like, even among the sort of centrist liberal types who have either said nothing up until now, or who have said stuff but in a very like, I believe in a two-state solution way, I feel like it's become very apparent to them, but like, look, this isn't going to happen. Like even they will end up living in the real world. And once you've got like enough people being like, look, everything that like this very sort of demoralized political class is saying about like, two-state solutions and the solutions of diplomacy, once they've stopped believing in that, then it becomes this problem, because the fantasy sort of dissipates, and as a result you just end up like, and what we've ended up in a situation where no one really believes in the two-state solution,
right?
But you've got a small but like very vocal and like an elevated group of people who have been given a lot of media time, a lot of airtime, a lot of sympathy, now being very open and basically saying that, yeah, like the starvation isn't happening. I mean, they're just like, it's very outright genocide denial in a sense, in a way that like in the past you would have associated that with like people who were denying like Srebrenica or were your classic genocide deniers, right?
That's where we're at right now, and I think your point is well made, Hussein, that like this has forced a lot of Zionists to confront the reality of their ideology. Like I live in New York, right? So like there is no place in the world other than the state of Israel itself where you are going to find more supporters of the Israeli state. And outside of the absolute most like diehard dogmatic Zionists, almost everybody else is seeing these images and seeing what they represent, right? And reading the stories about the fact that they still aren't letting aid caravans in sufficient amounts. They're seeing what happened with the Freedom Flotilla and all of those people just getting fucking detained. And I think that because Judaism is fundamentally a religion about like trying to restore some sense of justice to the world, at least if you're somebody who like, I think believes in sort of the kind of religion that I believe has some value to it, you see, you've always understood Zionism as being a restoration of these grand ideals of a world in which we are making a better world that protects everybody. But you see these images and you see these videos and you realize that nobody's being fucking protected by any of this. And at some point, you basically just have to have a reckoning where you either double or even triple down on your existing ideology, or you look at what's right in front of you and you say, fuck it, I was wrong this entire time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are doing that.
And I think this is like the last statement I was going to make very quickly was just that. It was like, there comes this point now where like the fantasies that I think were projected and people sort of held on to for a long time about like, oh, this is just a war. there are secret military bases under the hospitals in Gaza. Actually, 14-year-olds can be terrorists as well. Like, eventually that facade breaks down, and then you have a choice as to either double down on that, and like the people who have doubled down on it, people like Melanie Phillips, but also like, you know, you can find them quite easily on like most social media platforms, just very openly doing like textbook genocide denial in a way that in the past, like they were at least a bit more discreet about it, or at least a bit more like, oh, you know, we work within diplomatic institutions and therefore we're not like, you know, the Turks who like deny like the Armenian genocide and stuff.
Well, I was just going to say that the some of the Zionist commentary on this has really reminded me of that old joke, was like there's two types of Turkish guys who will say that, you know, the Armenian genocide never happened, and the people who say it never happened but they deserved it. And that's what you feel like reading a lot of these kind of like Israeli flagged logo tweets on Twitter, where it's like it oscillates between there is no genocide, that's a mass propaganda, and like, well, we've got to kill them all, obviously, because otherwise how will we ever be safe?
And the thing, what I want to go back to, right, is it's not even the diehards who will never change. Rather, it's the liberals who believed in this all the time and then chickened the fuck out, right? If you're David Shore, you're Matt Iglesias, you're Newsnight, you're the news agents, you're the Economist podcast, you're the New Statesman podcast, right? This is what you've been advocating for the whole time. And I mean, even like Matt Iglesias, because he's a very stupid man, is sort of trying to square this circle as opposed to just doing what the rest of them are doing and trying to hope that no one notices, that they're switched, that they're only coming out against
and
this
that for
now.
years and years and years, they were saying that it was so necessary. But these are also the ideology that these people do have, and they do still believe in, is the supremacy, morality, and necessity of the rules-based international order. And I think that what's happening is that they are seeing Israel break every single one of those rules, and that gives them sort of the leeway within their own minds to be like, well, they broke the rules, and that's their issue with it, as opposed to the underlying just fucking immorality of the thing.
And what I talk about someone like Matt Iglesias being especially stupid, it's that he's framed this explicitly, but I think people like James O'Brien take this framing implicitly. They're just not dumb enough to say it out loud, which is, oh, everyone up until now was crying wolf. It's like, no, you're not crying wolf if you're saying this is happening. You're just wrong. You're just wrong. And you have defended what is, I believe history will look on as perhaps or I hope anyway, as perhaps the most indefensible thing you could have done, the most indefensible position to have held.
Certainly in our era,
I genuinely hope that people like David Lammy and James O'Brien and Keir Starmer and the rest, fucking Matt Iglesias on both sides of the Atlantic, David Shore, all you people are like,
the Nelk boys, I'm looking at you. I want to see you in fucking like Nuremberg too, with Keir Starmer together. I don't even know. Like, I just think that'd be very funny as an image.
I'm here with the bum's basement, guys.
We're gonna add a charge of infringing on the rights of goons to Keir Starmer's rap sheet. But like seriously, it must be that they are never allowed to forget that what they have supported is the worst atrocity of the 21st century.
Like a guy who has such bad eyesight, he can only see a wolf when it's 3 feet away. I think the people saying they saw a wolf 5 minutes ago were lying, actually. And I think it only just appeared right now 3 feet away from my face.
I think it was unproductive to have said that the wolf is coming.
That's true, because at the end of the day, the wolf is here, you know? And it looks pretty aggressive.
I mean, and also I want to sort of revise something I said earlier, when it's too late to stop it. It's not too late to stop it.
Right.
You could stop it by just disarming Israel, allowing food aid in. There you go. You stop it. That stops it.
Even right now, if Donald Trump tomorrow were to go up there and say, we are effective immediately rescinding all aid to Israel until they stop, they would fucking stop. He's not going to do that, obviously, but that's what makes this so uniquely frustrating as well, is this how obvious it is that like we know why this is happening. We know its proximate causes. We know the people who are funding this. We know that the United States will never back down. And we also know that it actually wouldn't even fucking matter if Kamala Harris were president right now. She'd be doing the exact same goddamn thing, but also feeling really bad about it.
Yeah, she'd be shaking her head a lot more.
Yeah. And it's like, ultimately, this is the moment where all the nice liberals who said, oh, well, it's complicated. Everyone who ever said, oh, it's complicated. I'm a nice liberal. I don't want anyone to get hurt, but like it's got a right to defend itself. It said, oh, well, maybe they're
herself. I think you'll find that.
or anyone was like, but what? There might have been a command center under that hospital. I saw a video. It's like if you indulged in any of that for 1 minute, this is what you wanted. This is what you wanted. What's happening now?
I also like want to add, because there was like someone else, one of the Pod Toms, the Pod Save America guys, who was like
the Pod Johns.
Pod Johns. Sorry. my
I think
mistake.
this was a Tom from the Johns.
What
This
the
was
fuck?
a Tom. Yeah, I was just like, I'm not going insane. Anyway, yeah, like one of those guys who was just like, yeah, like people made mistakes, but actually it's a really big mistake to like get mad at them when they sort of want to admit it, because we need like a big tent if we're going to like win the next election. What, like, I don't care about the election stuff. But,
I don't
like,
want to share a fucking tent with you.
well, my point is more just like what we're talking about is genocide denial, right? We're not talking about like fucking policy changes. We're not talking about like someone who was maybe pro austerity. And this is not to say that like austerity, like supporting austerity was fine, but I think in terms of just like relative scales and just like the obviousness of what was happening, it's just like, yeah, what we're talking about is genocide denial. And look, like if you're like seeking forgiveness, if you're seeking redemption for like supporting this, and like you recognize that actually that was a mistake or you've been conned or whatever, like cool, that's fine. But like, you know, ultimately, like, you know, if you want to seek redemption, like that's between like you and your God, right?
Yeah, exactly. Don't expect a special fucking dispensation just because you feel bad about it.
And
Come
there
on.
is this feeling that like, oh, these people like are owed forgiveness. And I think the biggest mistake here is just to sort of be like, no, you guys are owed nothing. You guys
Because
are owed
they're
less than nothing.
They're not the ones whose feelings fucking matter right now. That's
Exactly,
the
yeah.
other thing.
Right.
You want to talk about like where the attention ought to be. It's not on, you know, this somebody who fucking lives comfortably out in fucking Patchogue, who has now realized the error of his ways. He can live with that guilt. The people who matter are the actual hundreds of people every single fucking day who are getting gunned down while waiting for rice.
Ah, damn. Look, it's just now important to never forgive or forget anyone who allowed an inch on any of this.
And I think also a lot of it is that these people aren't really seeking forgiveness. Like they're not apologizing for having gotten it wrong.
Yeah,
they're
that's
just
right.
showing up and they're being like, oh no, I've decided it's happening now. Hi guys.
Yeah, and you're not allowed to get mad at me. This is the other thing too.
In fact, you should praise me for coming around on it.
Because I'm like a centrist liberal with a liberal position, which is obviously majority of this country, and therefore, if you get mad at me, you're actually getting mad at everyone else, and so you're the bad person, not me.
And I mean, it's astonishing to me, right, that sort of on the subject of the new Corbyn party, which by the way I now see has like 400,000 people signing up, it's polling well. I think they're going to get it together. It'll be fine.
The no name party.
I don't care. I'm staying where I am, but I think they're going to do well, and I'm obviously supporting them.
If I was like the Green Party right now, I'd be offering every new member like a free Labubu.
Yeah. A recycled Labubu. A hemp Labubu.
No, it has to be a new one, and it has to include the rare variants.
But also, it's like, and what is Have I Got News for You doing, right? They're saying, Jeremy Corbyn launched a new political party, although he has yet to name it, as presumably Friends of Hamas was already taken.
Taken by who?
Yeah.
Who's launched that party? I want to go. Hang on, we've not joined. What's going on?
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I say, Have I Got News for You? Perhaps the most relevant political comedy show Britain has ever produced. But it's like just the sort of the wretchedness of spirit to remain contemptuous of the one person who's been right the whole time.
Yeah.
God
and
damn.
it's just such a bad joke.
Well, yeah. What everyone here has in common is that they're all herd animals. You know, none of them have actually had a moral awakening. None of them have decided that they are more human. None of them have decided that all of a sudden, oh, right, I recognize the dignity and sort of the worth of the life of my fellow humans. None of them have done that. They're just herd animals who are terrified more than anything of being the odd one out or the one holding the metaphorical bag. Look, we were going to do more segments, but this one ran long. So I'm going to move on to our main one. We're going to talk about the Epstein birthday book, probably, maybe even at the live show when Nova's
Oh, that's
back.
a good idea. Yeah. I'll be there, by the way.
Okay.
So, you know, not on stage, but like you can.
We actually have an opening for the fifth spot if
Wait,
you want to double
seriously?
Josh. Yeah.
I'll fucking
You
do
want
it.
to double Josh?
You want to put me on stage?
Yeah, let's double Josh.
All right, put me on stage.
Anyway, if you're out there
Put me in,
listening
coach.
and you would like to sign Epstein's birthday book, please come along at the live show, and we're going to be presenting that to Epstein's family later on in the week.
All right. Well, the thing that we were talking about, Josh, because again, Worst of All Possible Worlds is basically a media studies podcast with its sideline and arguing about musicals.
That's right. And evangelical Christians.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those guys. I wanted to talk a little bit about what's happening in the American media ecosystem, because what I've noticed about the Trump 2 term is like the Trump 1 term was like one of elite reorganization. And then Trump 2 is elite consolidation around, okay, this is the program. Everybody get on board with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And basically finding ways to capture existing media institutions and then retool them to the ends of the project. So do you just want me to talk a little bit about like what's been going on with Paramount and CBS?
Yeah, and then we'll finish on the article about the Palantir production studio.
Hell yeah. So just to sort of orient you to the basics of what's going on, you may well have heard a little bit about the controversy because it's touching a lot of different things. You might have heard about how like South Park put out an episode recently that got Trump really, really mad, or that Stephen Colbert's Late Show got canceled. And, that he's now been bringing on.
I can't believe that Colbert, that his tears did not shield him.
No, I mean, now he's really resisting really, really hard. He brought Lin-Manuel Miranda on the show to do a rap or something. But
oh God,
I know.
If they got Lin-Manuel Miranda to do Cats, maybe he'd get through.
Wait, are you being serious? Did he do that?
No, I'm dead fucking serious. Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God, I thought you were just fucking around. No, that's not. Oh wow.
He did the rap from Break stuff. It was very moving.
So, just to sort of outline what's been going on, this situation that's going on right now is sort of the synthesis of a lot of different things that have been going on that could have gone differently if Trump did not win re-election. But guess what? He did, and now we're here. So in July 2024, Paramount, which is the corporation that, among other things, owns the movie studio of the same name, as well as CBS, the broadcasting network, and in a number of other networks as well, including Comedy Central, they announced that they would be pursuing a merger with Skydance Entertainment. And Skydance is the movie studio that David Ellison runs, Larry's son, the Oracle guy, his son.
The 80-year-old who's also going for immortality.
Exactly.
And who was deeply, deeply implicated in the Trump administration and whose Stargate project seems to be hitting a bit of a snag.
Yeah, and Larry Ellison actually has two kids who both run studios. The other one is Megan, who runs Annapurna. And these two studios are sort of like each other's yin and yang. Annapurna is a lot of like really indie focused stuff. They go for critical acclaim, whereas Skydance is blockbusters, right? So the new Top Gun movies, the new Mission Impossible movies, the new Jack Ryan movies, and the new Jack Reacher movies, both Jack R's, all of that is Skydance. And, Paramount has been serving as distributor for these films, and they thought it would be really nice synthesis to just kind of take Skydance and bring it in-house because that'll make them more money.
Basically there will never be Sicario 1 again. Taylor Sheridan will always have the complete creative control that led to what I'm sure we can all agree is the better of the two Sicario movies.
I don't know. I'll take your word for it.
It's a waste of time to start with the first one in the series when you can go straight to number 2.
Yeah. I didn't know you hadn't seen them. Never mind.
We've spoken about this on the podcast. Yes. They're basically they're two movies, but they're completely different despite being 1 and 2 in the same series.
I'll retire to the Trash Future Lounge and pull those up on the big TV.
Yeah.
But so that was July, right? And the thing about any merger, of course, is that the United States government has to approve it. So in this case, for media stuff, it's the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. They're the ones who govern the lay of the land regarding media in the U.S. It's sort of like, I guess, Ofcom, right? Here in Britain.
Yeah.
And they initially, they didn't really seem to be like tipping their hand one way or the other because obviously in July 2024, Joe Biden was still president. In October of 2024, there was an interview with Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes, which is the weekly news program on CBS, right? It's an hour, hence the title. And they generally will talk about like the big news of the week. And they interviewed Kamala Harris, and Donald Trump alleged that it was edited misleadingly in Kamala Harris's favor. He basically was arguing that like they left her looking like a dipshit on the cutting room floor. And the requested damages in that lawsuit, $10 billion with a B.
Yeah, that makes sense so far. Is that you didn't include any of the bits of Kamala Harris like crushing up and snorting Xans, and the American people deserve to know.
Right, and that's what happened, obviously, during the cut portion of that interview. They later, by the way, doubled their request for damages to $20 billion because fuck it, why not?
Well, yeah, because that's the thing. Why not? You're just playing fucking Calvin ball. Who cares?
Exactly.
Yeah, double down.
Now, this was initially seen as just like fucking laughable, right? Like, what are you talking about? $20 billion? Like, that's not real money. And initially, it looked like CBS was going to like fight, pursue, win, because they had a very strong case on their hands. This is a nuisance lawsuit, right? But after Trump became president, things changed. And in April of this year, Bill Owens, who was a longtime executive producer on 60 Minutes, he basically saw where things were headed, and he resigned. And that was sort of the big thing. When that moment happened, everybody was like, oh, fuck, Paramount's going to settle because they want to clear this deal. And that's exactly what happened. On July 2, so just a few weeks ago, they settled for $16 million with Trump. And it's kind of noteworthy that this is exactly $1 million more than a $15 million settlement that Trump did with ABC, because George Stephanopoulos misspoke on This Week and said that Trump was found liable for rape when in fact he was found liable for sexual abuse. So that's where we've gotten to. And additionally, Trump has claimed that CBS is going to air another $20 million worth of pro-Trump PSAs. We'll see if that happens or not. But given his tendency toward just like saying some shit and it happening, I wouldn't bet against the guy, They're
going to air the musical Cats in its entirety.
Yes.
Yeah. And the understanding, I think, that among every elite that this is now just where things are going. Yeah. And like with the political elites on Gaza, it's you just don't want to be the odd one out. You are a herd animal.
Exactly. And this is a naked quid pro quo, right? Yeah. Because again, July 2 was when the settlement happened. And then the actual merger got approved on July 24. 22 days later, check was in the mail. It cleared. We're all good. Now,
for $20 billion.
No, only for 16. That's the thing, that it's only $16 million. It's not even that much money. Like but it's enough to show that they're willing to do what he wants them to do. That's the fucking point of it all.
Yeah. And, I mean, look, I hate to state the obvious, but if you are either a sort of private or semi-private organization, like a sort of business or a university, as is, and you begin just essentially colluding with a revolutionary right-wing program, they give up after a while, right? It's not like it's not like they will just keep doing that. No,
they just chill out and they let you get away with they're like, oh, okay, you helped. That's enough. No, of course fucking not, right? Like once you start doing this, it's just going to keep happening. One other thing that's worth noting is that as part of the merger, David Ellison promised the FCC, and there's a memo, this is on paper, that they are going to appoint an ombudsman at CBS to, and I am quoting here from the memo, ensure that the company's array of news and entertainment programming embodies a diversity of viewpoints across the political and ideological spectrum. Which means, of course, they're going to do whatever Trump wants them to do.
You know what it means? Literally what it means is you're welcome to having at best, the BBC. Yeah. Basically.
Yes.
Where every government, whether sort of a putatively liberal one or a revolutionary conservative one, always puts a partisan conservative in charge of it.
And up until the Reagan administration in the United States, there was something called the equal time rule, which required that, much like the BBC, you present opposing viewpoints on everything. That's gone now. So there is no actual requirement at this point to put forth any sort of a counterpoint to the robust Trumpism that we are almost certainly going to see from the Columbia Broadcasting System in the coming years.
It's a rule of power, right? It is the naked rule of power. It is, and to me, it's like the I've been thinking about the 1920s and 70s in Italy quite a bit for obvious reasons. The birth of like mass politics defined by mass political violence in a sort of, in the modern world is Italy in the 1920s. And then Italy sort of in and after the 1970s is the birth of Berlusconiism, right? That is just I am the man. It's one man, one vote. I'm the man. I have the vote. So, everybody please line up to appease me. And, it's like it seems like the United States is almost running backwards through this process of going back through Berlusconi towards through the years of lead poisoning to Italy in the sort of late 19-teens.
Mussolini like thing. Yeah. And I mean, I've got a really remarkable quote here, too. This is from Brendan Carr, who is the chairperson of the FCC. And he says, this is why he approved the merger. This is a quote from him on why he approved it. The new owners of CBS came in and said, it's time for a change. We're going to reorient it towards getting rid of bias. At the end of the day, that's what made the difference for us.
I want to move on, though. We're talking about existing institutions that are panicking and changing to comply in advance or after threats, as the case may be. But also, like, there is now a profitable industry in essentially like making different versions of the triumph of the will, basically, but for burger people.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are skating to where the puck is going to be, right? Because already it's become very clear that a big piece of what the Trump I almost said Trump organization, but that's the thing, is that the Trump organization and the Trump White House are inseparable from each other at this point. They're the same thing.
It's more like a Zaibatsu in some ways.
Like with the fucking tariffs, right? I mean, we just, I guess, now we're going to have 15% tariffs on everything coming in from Europe. We're effectively tripling import duties. Awesome. Love that. The press keeps framing it as a deal. It wasn't a deal. It was a fucking shakedown.
I want to talk about this article that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Right. This article about Founders Films.
Ooh.
Founders Films aims to remake Hollywood with patriotism, Palantir, and Ayn Rand.
Absolutely.
I had to add the P in there because surely you could have had a third P.
Well, the P is silent.
Yeah. Ayn Rand. So it says, as conservative backlash sweeps across U.S. media, some are reaching for the ultimate prize, Hollywood. And they've been doing this for decades, decades and decades and decades. And there is just this moment where now they've got it, right? I mean, because again, you've been tracking this for a very long time. You're talking about this as a sort of economic and cultural political phenomenon.
And generally speaking, there's been like a parallel industry as epitomized by, say, like the Daily Wire and stuff like that. But they've never had control of the real thing. And that's why Skydance is such a fucking jewel in their crown, right? Is that they're now going to have, I mean, not like total control, but largely effective control of the blockbuster studio.
And it says, now a set of prominent figures close to the software firm Palantir are pitching a new project to shake up streaming TV and film with a portfolio ranging from feature films about daring Israeli military operations.
Yes.
I bet that's going to be pretty fucking popular.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
One of them is about the pager thing.
Yeah. Daring Israeli and American military operations to a 3-part Ayn Rand trilogy.
Oh, God. Is it Atlas Shrugged again?
We don't know yet. We're going to see.
Yeah. It's a sort of a daring combination of Ayn Rand and the Navy SEALs somehow.
Yeah. Well, you know what it was? It was like, that's why that second helicopter crashed when they were going to go to Bin Laden, is that they could auctioned off the fuel to it was more efficient in the market.
Oh, yeah.
Is it going to be like contemporary? Is it going to be like John Galt? Like having to deal with like a bunch of like Zoomers who are like just on their phones all the time. And whenever he's just like, buildings are so cool. And the Gen Z is just like sort of, I read something about like the Gen Z stare, which is, I don't know whether it's a real thing, but it's like this kind of, this sort of like very vacant stare that is confusing a lot of older generations. And I wonder if that's going to be like a big part of like whatever.
What they're going to do is like, how close are they just to being like, yeah, we're going to do the Running Man for real. You know, they say, we're going to say yes to projects about American exceptionalism, name America's enemies, back artists unconditionally. Well,
they're not. They're not.
I guess there is a condition.
Yeah.
Right. That is the condition.
There's one pretty big condition.
Yeah. And take risks on novel IP. So I'm very excited, to see like the Israel cinematic universe.
Awesome. It's so funny to hear them just like not understanding that this is stuff that's used to take the piss out of them. Like American exceptionalism. They're like, yeah, that's right. American exceptionalism. We are different to every other country that there's ever been.
Yeah. Well, this is, they say, the American brand is broken. Hollywood is AWOL. Movies have become more ideological, more cautious, and less entertaining. And again, it's like, yeah, that's true.
But not for the reasons you think.
Yeah. It's not like, it's not that movies have become more ideological and less entertaining because they're, I don't know, marginally more inclusive, even in the sense that very few of them are.
Right. Well, and also, I think that they would hold up as sort of the exemplar of a non-ideological film to be something like, say, Jack Ryan or Top Gun, which are insanely fucking jingoistic movies.
My favorite non-ideological movie is The Sands of Iwo Jima. I love that non-ideological movie.
I will say Top Gun Maverick whips shit, though. I love that movie.
Look, it's fun. Anyway, they say large segments of American and international viewers are underserved. And I think you could argue those people are underserved largely because they have slowly been driven into antisocial madness by talk radio. Right. You have been. What has happened is not that you are underserved because you have some kind of nebulous preference that arises from nowhere. Right. you're underserved because you've been successfully convinced by a propaganda campaign that anything other than ice-chewing, flag-waving, gun-toting nationalism is something that you cannot bear to even look at.
Well, and also, it's not true to say that those viewers are underserved. There is a massive industry for those dog shit movies. We talk about them on the podcast like every month.
Yeah, of course. So they say production costs have soared and sales are flagging. And it's like, again, could there be other reasons? Impossible to say. So Shyam Sankar, the guy who started this, who came from Palantir, right? The article it's about this. The article isn't in support of this, right? This is quoting this is sort of skeptical treatment of it. In a post late last year in his Substack, Shyam Sankar, the guy in charge, outlined his view for a return to the blockbusters of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, right.
Like Red Dawn, Top Gun, Rocky IV, and The Hunt for Red October.
But that's what Skydance is doing. Like, that's the thing. This already is happening.
He said the entertainment industry needs to be unafraid of offending Chinese audience and use American cultural power to spread skeptical views of the Chinese government, saying, breaking out of our cultural malaise will require studios to wake up and choose America.
Absolutely.
And again, like,
since when has Hollywood not been skeptical of the Chinese government?
I mean, it's just the China's a gigantic foreign.
But they
market.
mostly they edit the movies for Chinese release, right?
Right.
I mean, that's why so much stuff is CGI'd so that it can be changed easily when it gets released in China. Because you're not allowed blood in Chinese movies. There's loads of random rules like that that are not even propaganda. They're just strange censorship things. Yeah, and they say we need to invoke the Renaissance in American film in the 1970s when directors including Steven Spielberg brought back heroes, villains, and romance and rekindled the flame of the American cinematic universe. It's got to make unwoke E.T.
Yeah, finally. I'm going to make E.T. where he just gets immediately sent to El Salvador.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like saying, what they're really saying is, you must sign up for full-throated, kitschy jingoism, right? Which is, your hero should be called Slab Ripchest, and he should be doing nothing but, easily triumphing over America's enemies. I mean, to me, it seems like what they're proposing is a kind of Hays Code, but for gun-toting of all-American heroism.
That's the thing, is all of this sounds it doesn't just sound bad and corny and trite. It also just sounds like bad storytelling. There is no good storytelling without conflict. And if what you have is this all-powerful protagonist that can easily defeat anything it comes up against, you don't have a fucking story.
Well, their slate includes films like 102 Minutes, a feature film about the evacuation of the World Trade Center. The tagline reads, "Courage is contagious." The company also is creating a 3-part adaptation of Atlas Shrugged, so it's Atlas Shrugged.
Ah, yes.
And a film about the assassination of Qasem Soleimani. You know, that thing everyone remembers. And I just wish I could have been a fly on the wall when Donald Trump was just kill that guy. Yeah. What's
strange is that Courage is Contagious is also the tagline of the movie I'm making about the 9/11 hijackers.
The deck also pitches Operation Pineapple Express, not to be confused with the 2000 stoner comedy. Right. A movie about the, quote, botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. So again, it's we're going to have a movie.
Seth Rogen is in it.
Right. Seth Rogen plays a Joe Biden who was too high and senile to care about the brave men and women of the armed forces.
Fuck did we end up at Kabul airport, dude?
What happened to that movie where what's his name? Lawrence Fox was supposed to play the Biden son, Hunter Biden.
Oh, that came out.
Did that come out? Okay, because
Hunter Biden has too much sauce to be played by Lawrence Fox.
Well, that's right. Because I was sort of thinking about, obviously, Josh has made the point that these guys don't know how to tell a story, and they don't know what stories are because they're losers, and they're very much, that anecdote about Trump and how he gets his sons to fast forward through Bloodsport because he just wants to watch the fight scenes. That reminds me of kind of what all these films are going to be. They're all these they want to advertise the big moments, right? They want to advertise all the guns and the killing and all that type of stuff. That makes for a great trailer. And you see with a lot of these AI guys who are sort of doing these horrible reinterpretations of Ghibli films, they'll sort of really emphasize the kind of the references that they remember, and the sort of impression they want to give is oh look, it's we can produce this really cool thing. It's no, you kind of just did a trailer using stuff that already existed, and you sort of made it 3D and a bit weird.
I feel from the Hunter Biden movie, I feel that the trailer, I saw the whole movie from the trailer itself. It was Breitbart, by the way, that distributed that one. That came out in 2022.
Yeah, I think it is very much okay, these guys want to make trailers, and they want to make trailers which are distillations of the sort of anxieties and fears and frustrations they sort of often espouse on Twitter and on their Substacks and everything. But the idea of like making a film, there's a reason why like this has sort of never worked. Like even when the Daily Wire was trying to do originals, and they produced that one film which was like passable by film stand in the sense of like it operated fine as a story. It wasn't a particularly good film, but it was supposed to be one that was like actually the Second Amendment's really good, and like, you know, having people who are trained with guns. Like it was like a film that really was just like, oh yeah, the good guy with a gun is better than a bad guy with a gun, and also the good guy with a gun is like this kick-ass woman, which was certainly like not particularly appealing to many of the Daily Wire subscribers based on like the comments I had read. But the point being that like because Ben Shapiro had at least gone to film school, or at least he tried to write screenplays, like he sort of knew how it worked, right? Even if he was just very bad at doing it. Like these
let's
guys,
just say hypothetically you got a hero's journey. Okay?
These guys don't know how it works. And so I imagine like what's going to end up happening is that like they'll make a few things. It won't really work the way they want. They'll run into the same problems as every movie studio, which is just like, oh, it's expensive to make a film.
Yeah.
Working with actors really sucks when like the actors want to be treated well. And like every actor still wants to be treated well, even if they're like ideologically to the right. Like, you know, ultimately they're not being paid very much. And I don't know how long, like, I don't know whether you're going to be able to like sustain that. But even if you're
casting Mel Gibson in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, even like whatever way, like, I don't know how like far they'll go down, but I don't imagine that this is going to sort of be a long-term endeavor by any means.
Oh, so you don't think that When the Towers Fall, a film about Israel's 2024 booby-trapped pager operation against Hezbollah, is going to be a blockbuster success?
Well, it depends. Will they be able to get Sydney Sweeney to like do something? Because like that's probably the only way it's going to work, right?
Yeah, they're going to remake it, and she's going to be in a big pager costume.
I was going to say
she's
going to be the pager.
No, she's going to be the leader of Hezbollah.
Or another movie called Roaring Lion, a movie about the recent attack against Iran, which depicts Israel as, quote, striving for nuclear non-proliferation and exercising its right to self-defense.
Oh, yeah. Like, Israel really wants nuclear non.
Yeah. It's like, these are, there's a few things, right? These aren't movies. These are posts.
Right.
This is just, the desire is, I wish to be flattered. I wish to be reassured and flattered. And, I think there definitely also was an era of like a kind of more liberal monoculture also wanting to be reassured and flattered. There hasn't been a lot of, let's say, risk taking in the big film industry. But the problem is what you're trying to reassure and flatter is revolutionary fascism.
Yeah.
Right. It is equally shallow, but we could argue much worse. And, just like ultimately the dream, I think, of people like Founders Films or the people in the sort of other main American media companies that are surrendering constantly and sort of like eagerly signing up to this. It's the same as any fascist dream, which is the dream is to exercise power, to force out people you consider to be both terrifying and weak at the same time, to terrorize them and ultimately kill them. Right. It's the dream isn't that audiences are going to flock to Israel is a Lion, the movie or whatever. The dream is that you're not really going to have any other options for movies. Right. And that the dream is that if you don't see, if like, I don't know, you're a tween and you don't see this movie, then you're going to be mocked and degraded by your peers. The idea, and every step of the way, all of this, like, oh, there's a market that's being underserved, is such a thin veneer over what is ultimately always revealed at base to be a desire to dominate and humiliate.
Yeah.
We're doing the Triumph of the Will, but it's going to be a musical. Okay, it's going to be fabulous.
They're not upset that the market is underserved. They're upset that products that attempt to serve this market don't meet with the market response that they believe that they deserve.
Anyway, look, we're also reaching the end of the time. I promise. Epstein Black Book episode.
Hell yeah.
On Thursday in Edinburgh. We're going to do it live. We're going to do Epstein Black Book episode live.
We're going to read the Black Book live.
A very wealthy pedophile.
I am the only other person in the world with a copy of the Black Book.
Nice.
I'm sorry I forgot to release it. I was really busy.
Yeah, Riley's using it to do telemarketing.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal has the other copy. They released it. My copy, I forgot.
Got it.
I'm sorry. That's on me. I had it for like 4 or 5 years and I kept procrastinating releasing it. I'm sorry.
That's a mood.
We can auction off the copy with Riley's marginalia.
Right. I was going to like give it to the news, but I felt like an imposter, and so I've kept it in my basement ever since.
Anyway, look. So we'll see some of you in Edinburgh in a couple days.
31st of July. Still a few tickets left, I believe.
Just a couple.
Yeah, and also my Edinburgh show, 31st of July to the 4th of August. Still some tickets remaining, but selling quite fast. And Newcastle, Wednesday. 30th. Come to that. That one's really close to sold out. So
lovely.
Yeah,
All right.
Do that.
All right.
Do those.
And can I also just point out, come to my Edinburgh show too, actually.
Right, yeah, of course.
That's why I'm going to be up there. Is I am directing a show. It's called The Boy from Bantai. It's written and performed by an absolutely brilliant friend of mine named Jeremy Rafal. He's an incredible pianist, and the show is just about his journey as a musician and an artist. And our first performance is going to be on August 1st. So it's going to be the day after the Trash Future show. If you're already up, get a ticket. And also listen to The Worst of All Possible Worlds, where we talk about media, and Ill Conceived, where we talk about natalism. 2 fun podcasts that I do. Those are my plugs.
Yeah. All right.
There you go.
Time for dinner, I think, Josh.
Let's do it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.